Welcome to the Crush It in Sales podcast. I'm your host, Melinda Van Fleet. This podcast focuses on the intersection of sales, leadership, and personal development. Now let's get ready to dig in and crush it. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Crush It in Sales podcast. I can't believe it's episode 47 already. So almost a year since I decided to start this podcast because I just felt that I have other things that I wanted to share and discuss, and other people I really wanted to collaborate with, and they didn't fit in with my other podcast, Good Karma Success Coach. So I created this one as well. And it's been a journey. It's been a mental journey. It's been also a time journey, but I'm still really glad I do it. And in this journey of thinking about content, I have been thinking about doing a podcast about content from my point of view. And what do I mean by my point of view? I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not a marketing guru. I don't have a marketing company. I really don't even talk about marketing. But what's funny is, as I've been in this space and doing the work, and it's a lot of work, and work behind the scenes on my husband's business for many, many years, which people have probably no realization about before I launched my business about 2 years ago. I have been thinking, as I listen to courses and I listen to some of these experts, that, you know what, it'd be really great and probably helpful to share my point of view and what I've learned with others, because I do believe that sometimes when you listen to some of these people, or you read their articles, or you buy their courses, sometimes it's just a lot of jargon. I'm going to be really honest. And if you've been following me on Instagram or Facebook, you might see that I am the Phoenix Rising. I am going to be more and more and more authentic and truthful about what is going on out there. What is going on? What is going on in regards to leadership? What is going on in regards to sales? And what is going on in regards to personal development? So when I started to really put together some notes for this podcast that is going to be about content creation from a newbie's point of view, that's kind of how I feel about it, I'm probably going to have like 3 parts to this, because I have a lot to say and a lot to share and a lot of insight and a lot of tips and a lot of mindset tips as well. And I also have a lot to share that goes in regards to confidence. And confidence is something that Ryan and I are talking about more and more and more. Obviously, if you've been listening, you know we have our book chapter that is coming out on 11/11 in Brilliant Breakthroughs for Small Business Owners book series. And then last week, I was interviewed by Maggie on the Brilliant Breakthroughs Business podcast, which is the first podcast in a series of 5 interviews that'll be going on throughout the year. And I'm posting a lot of those things in Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So it all is just kind of tying together really nicely. And I love it when everything comes together nicely, when the universe works in my favor. I know the universe has my back, and things just kind of come together. It's great. It's like this big recipe in the sky that is finally coming together. So I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm super happy and excited. And I'm just grateful that you're all listening, and I have some fun things to share. So I'm going to get started. And like I said, I took some notes, which I woke up super early this morning at 4, and I wanted to take some notes, and I ended up just typing. And right now I have 3 pages of things I've typed. So it's a lot. Normally I'm not scripted at all, and I'm not going to say I'm scripted in this podcast, but this one I did put more notes down because I have so much to share, and I wanted to do that. So let's get started. And again, I don't consider myself an expert, and I want people to realize that. I don't think anyone needs to be an expert to create content. Again, no one needs to be an expert to create content. And if you look at what an expert's just someone that's a few steps ahead of you. Just a few steps. It could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 10 years, it doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. They're just a little bit ahead of you. So you need to take everything with a grain of salt when you listen to some of these people, because one of my biggest hindsights is not everything works for you. So you may take courses. I've taken a bunch of courses, countless amounts of courses. I don't even think I could list them all over the past few years. And we've listened to dozens and dozens of podcasts, Ryan and I. We were both really into listening to lots of marketing podcasts for a long time to learn new tips and ideas. And I'm in several mastermind groups that meet regularly, and I am very involved in those mastermind groups, sharing ideas and tips and listening to their presenters. But you know what? Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work for what our business model is or what our intentions or expectations are. And I think that's really important for someone to realize. I have made that mistake before where I have followed somebody's program. It was a speaking program to the T. And quite frankly, I kind of drove myself crazy. And it wasn't necessary, because now with COVID, his whole philosophy kind of went out the window, really. So what did that all look like, right? So when I look back at that, I'm like, wow, what did that all mean? I spent a ton of money, and I don't know, was it worth it? Some days I think yes, some days I think no. I think it was yes for the connections I made, some really good friends through the program, and it's obviously given me some content. But, don't get so hung up on what all these experts are saying. Listen to the things, do the courses if you feel called to take them, and take whatever notes make sense for you. Just like listening to this podcast. Calling a spade. Like, you can do the same thing when you listen to this podcast. You can be like, oh, she's really not an expert. I'm just going to take things with a grain of salt. Yes, do that, please. Please do that. Pick out what works for you and make it your own. And you can twist it, tweak it, pivot it, level it up, dumb it down, however you want to look at it. But take what works for you and make it your own. Another thing about content creation that I think is so important is it's a muscle. So I talk about confidence being a muscle in our chapter on confidence. Content is the same thing. It's a muscle. When you start out, you're probably nervous. You're like, oh, what am I going to say today? What am I going to do? But once you start doing it and doing it regularly, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that goes with every single skill set you have. That goes with speaking. That goes with writing. That goes with being a sales rep. That goes with being a leader. It's doing the reps and the work over time to build those muscles that'll make you stronger. Every single thing goes in that bucket, I promise you. So when you start on a path of content creation, I would say look around you for ideas. Take some time and jot some ideas down. Look around you for things that have happened to you. That's one of our biggest things between Ryan and I. And Ryan's Good Karma Sport Fishing. If you don't know who I'm referring to, it's my husband. And he has built an amazing brand that's just like on fire. It's crazy, actually. And we have always used every single thing that has happened in the business for content. So over the years, Ryan would get upset, let's say, at something that would happen. He would be kind of just in a bad mood or like, ah, and I'd be like, honey, it's content. I have been saying that things are content for as long as I even know. And it didn't come from me listening to a podcast. I've just innately been like, hey, this is content. We can use this to help others. Hey, this is content. We can use this to help others. So every little thing that happens to us, good or bad, is content. It's actually great when it's bad, because think about it. You can help more people with the bad stuff, because so many people are struggling out there. So many people don't know where to turn. So many people need help or advice, or just to know they're not alone. So your content, if it's bad, actually helps more people. Think about it. You learn more from the bad things that happen to you in your life then you learn from the good, right? If we all just kept on going along our merry way and life was roses and sunshine all day and smell the flowers, well, hell, would you learn or grow? No, you wouldn't. You would just be hanging out, smelling the flowers. It's the bad stuff that happens to you that you learn and grow from. So use that content. Use that content to help others. Use your story. I am so tired of podcasts that are just interview, and the person has no story. I'm tired of reading articles where there's no story. It's boring. It's putting me to sleep. Tell me some story. Tell me something about something that happened to you or even somebody else. That's cool. Whatever. Obviously don't say their name if it's not something that should be public, or, twist it up a bit like lots of authors do, and share it and build it around your advice and your tips. And that's what people need to realize when they're building content. All of us have story. All of us have ideas. All of us have things that happen to us. And all of us have things that we can share to help others. The other thing with content that I want to talk about is something I did learn in a course, and it was an Instagram course. So it was a very expensive Instagram course, but I learned a lot. And you know what? I'm going to say this too about courses. Make sure you have your expectations and intentions set around courses. So I'm going to use this as an example. So this Instagram course that I debated about taking, I'll be honest, I was on the fence. I wasn't one of those take action right away with this course because it's $2,000. And I did it last year in 2019. And I was hesitant because, let's be honest, Instagram's been out there. So if you haven't been on Instagram for the past, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever, and building that audience, you're really starting at ground zero in a really red ocean. And even though I've never read the Blue Ocean, Red Ocean book, I can't remember what it's called, I believe in it, I get the concept, and I've always felt that way. So I'm going to talk about blue oceans and red oceans a lot. So Instagram is a red ocean, okay? So I have been posting continually on Instagram since April of 2019, and I don't have that many follows. It's like in the 300s. So when I paid for this Instagram course, it was not my expectation that I was going to have 1 million followers. Heck, that would be great. I could sit around all day and try to manifest that, right? But honestly, let's be real. That wasn't my intention. I took the course. I ended up deciding to take the course after thinking about it a lot, just so I could get better, just so I could learn some new tips, have better looking posts, have better ideas. And for that reason, it was a great course. I learned a lot. And it just really helped me, hopefully, for everybody out there, create better content on Instagram. And then I used those skills, I transferred over to Facebook. So I actually learned a lot. One of the things I learned in the course, and I actually was already kind of doing it, so it just made it more clear, was to have 3 pillars. And when you think about your pillars with content, it's 3 things that you're going to kind of always go back to. So for me, for example, and it's not perfect, but at least it's something to hang your hat on. And this is what I want you to think about if you're working on creating content. Number 1 for me, one of my pillars is confident, believing in myself and taking action, and any stories that kind of go under that. So that could be like us working on this book chapter together. An example that I had just this morning that I posted in Instagram and Facebook that I'll talk about as well. And anything in that bucket, believing in yourself and taking action and confidence. The other pillar that I post about is the fact we live in the Florida Keys. Not that many people live in the Florida Keys. And no one really in this space lives in the Florida Keys. So I post a lot about, whether it's palm trees or nature or my husband's fishing charter. I posted a manatee video that was really cool the other day when I was at the marina waiting for the good karma to come back. And I post different things like that. Then I try to tie my message in still to my main pillar, which is believing in yourself and taking action, and also confidence. And then the third thing I post is quotes. So I have quotes, and I just recently changed up the look of my quotes using some Canva templates. Canva is a great tool. And I was just using Word Swag before, another great tool, and I switched it up to something on Canva. But then I do quotes. So when you look at my Instagram wall, you'll see like pictures of me or pictures of me and Ryan, pictures of nature, things that I personally took here in the Keys, and quotes. Granted, sometimes it varies and there's something a little different. I put the podcast in there and different things like that. But for the most part, those are the 3 pillars that I try to stay within. The other thing I want to mention, actually, because I just segued from that, is in regards to using something that happens to you, even think about texts or conversations with your friends. So this morning, I wanted to do my Instagram post as a picture of myself because I hadn't done a picture in a few days. And I wanted to obviously talk about confidence and taking action. And wouldn't you know that the universe had presented me a content idea through a text message with a very good friend of mine and fellow sales rep who I've known for 8 years. And she sent me a text saying, glad you landed on your feet because I've had a major shift in the past couple weeks. And I texted her back right away. I said, girl, I always land on my feet. And then I walked away for a second and then I was like, oh no, hold that thought. And I texted her back. I said that I never even effing fell down. So there you go. A post. As simple as that. So as you're creating content, I highly recommend, and I talked about this last week with my podcast with Dawn Gruters as well. We talked about content creation a little bit at the end, is that, keep a journal. I have journals all over. I have sticky notes all over. I have notepads all over. I have a notepad in my nightstand next to our bed. I have a notepad in my car. I travel with my phone all the time. So if I don't have a notepad, if I'm on a walk and I have an idea, I text myself or leave myself a voicemail or send myself an email, whatever's easier. And I'm always taking notes on that content because that will grow and grow and grow over time. So I want you to take away from this episode, part 1 of content creation, is that we're all creators and we all need to be creators. That's a fact. And, this landscape that we're all in is changing so quickly. So I want you to just think about, if you're struggling with content creation, all the easy ways that you can now start to just get your brain working, get your brain moving, get the finger working and the hands in terms of taking notes when you have an idea. Don't be afraid. Just put it down. And that is step 1 in starting to think about things and starting to move forward. That don't be afraid. Don't have, what do they call it? FOMO? No. What's the other one? Yeah, FOMO is fear of missing out. I forget what the other one's called imposter syndrome. Thank you. Imposter syndrome. Took me a second there. I don't think about imposter syndrome, but so many people have it. And just remember, the people that are really successful out there, use them for inspiration. Be inspired by them. So we all need to be on these social platforms, building businesses. Hopefully you're building your own business and you're not building someone else's business, because someday when you go to get replaced, you leave, you'll realize, oh my gosh, I spent all this time using my social media and my brand. We're all a brand. Everyone's name is a brand. Building someone else's business. You should be building your own business. That's another little segue for you. You should be building your own business, your own brand. And think about those things in regards to creating content. I have always been very mindful that my name is my brand, that my husband's name is his brand. So I have never promoted someone else's company unless it's just tagging to say thank you or check it out, like a local store. Or this morning with my post, I said thank you to my photographer, Mary Griffin. She's amazing. And the property where we were able to take the pictures at for our photo shoot. So keep that in mind too. Are you promoting yourself and your brand, or are you spending time and energy and social media? It's out there, people. It's out there in the ethers. Like, people can Google you 5 years from now and be like, oh, wow, she was promoting that company and she didn't even work for them. Don't they have their own marketing team? Think about all those things. Think about how you're using your time in promotion. So I hope I gave you lots of nuggets to think about. I took some notes. I really didn't even look at them. So I'm going to have to go back. And obviously this will be definitely part 3, maybe even more. I don't know. So let me know what you think. I always love to hear from people and see how things resonated for you. My intention is always to create content that someone out there can use, that it helps them, that they realize they're not alone, and then hopefully they can share with somebody else that may need the help as well. So check out my other podcast, which is Good Karma Success Coach. And that website, goodkarmasuccesscoach.com, has a free Believe in Yourself and Take Action tip sheet, which will also sign you up for my monthly Mojo newsletter. And my private Facebook group is now called Good Karma Vibes. So I listened to a mastermind call on private Facebook groups last week, and I took action and changed up some things with my Facebook group. And I plan on spending more and more time in there and giving more and more tips and tools that can really help people really transform them so they can live their best lives. So again, I appreciate you listening. And until next time, I hope you crush it in sales. Thank you.